There might not be that many opinions today. We're just gonna enjoy the ride of spookiness. Childhood ghost and my angel. I thought I'd share a couple of times I've experienced things I can't really explain. I'm sorry, these two stories are kinda long, but I know you like the long ones. Here on this channel, we love the long ones. The last one is a little heavy, but we'll get through it together. So here we go. Over the years, I learned that not every spirit is here to scare you. Some are here to protect you. My childhood was shaped by the ghost of a little girl in nightgown we called Robin. But adulthood showed me the presence of someone far more personal, my guardian angel. These are just a couple of my paranormal experiences. So picture this. Some neighborhoods have tree-lined streets, kids playing outside, friendly neighbors. Mine had that too, but it also had something else. Something you couldn't see, but you could feel. Growing up, I swear our whole block was haunted. The very first time I saw her, I was sitting on the couch with my sister, waiting to head to the bus stop. The TV was on, cartoons flickering in the background, when we both heard footsteps on the stairs. Slow, steady, heavy enough to make us turn our heads. And there she was, a little girl in a white nightgown, quietly walking down the steps. Halfway down, she turned and looked right at us. My sister and I froze, then looked at each other like, "Did you see that too?" And when we looked back, she was gone. Just silence, just stairs. That was the beginning. A few years later, one stormy night, my sister and I were curled up in bed watching Disney movies on VHS. The room was dark, except for the glow of the TV. I was dozing off when I saw someone walk in front of the screen. The shadow blocked the light, and then snap, the whole room went black. "Hey!" I yelled, thinking my sister turned it off. But then my dad yelled up that the power had gone out, and my sister shouted from downstairs with my parents. She wasn't even in the room. My stomach dropped. Whoever walked in front of that TV wasn't her. Another time, I was walking past the basement door and saw her again, just out of the corner of my eye. I backed up quickly, started staring into the empty basement. Just the smell of laundry detergent drifting up. My sister and I talked about it so much that we eventually gave her a name, Robin. Naming her made her feel less scary, like she was just another kid hanging around. But it wasn't just our house. My aunt's place 2 doors down was just as weird. One weekend, my sister and I were helping her make cheesecake. The kitchen smelled like strawberry and cream cheese, and early 2000s hip-hop was blasting on the stereo. It was just a normal night until there was a knock at the door. Without thinking, we both yelled, "Come in!" The door cracked open slowly, then slammed into the couch so hard it bounced shut. We froze. Music still blasting, spoon in midair, just staring at each other wide-eyed. Nobody laughed it off. Nobody said a word. Even my friend Leah, 3 houses down, had her stories. One night, my sister and I were at her place and we heard footsteps above us, pacing back and forth. But Leah didn't even have an attic, just a crawl space too small for anyone to stand in. Still, the footsteps kept going until they finally stopped. Leah used to joke the ghost at her house was a man, and she even gave him a name, Roger. One time, it felt like the whole block was haunted. And years later, I found out why. My grandma's friend, who grew up on the same street, told us about a little girl named Ruby who lived there in the 1950s. She got sick with leukemia, and back there wasn't much treatment. She died young, right in the backyard, not far from where we lived. Ruby. For years, my sister and I called the little girl Robin, and Leah called hers Roger. But it makes me wonder, why did we all pick our names? And then it turns out her name was actually Ruby. But here's the thing, my childhood ghost had nothing to do with my guardian angel. That was a whole different story, and it came much later. I am not someone who's believing very much in the supernatural, but I just got goosebumps when I read that last sentence. Anyway, back to the story. In 2018, I was in a devastating car accident. There were 4 of us in the car, going nearly 100 miles an hour, when we lost control and slammed into a cider block wall. The sound was like the world ripping apart. Metal twisting, glass shattering, bodies being thrown forward. It was so bad that helicopters came and flew each of us to different hospitals across the state. None of us ended up in the same place. Two of us survived, but not the same as before. I'm so sorry that happened, and I'm so sorry for your loss. My best friend was paralyzed from the chest down, and another friend's brain was so damaged that his mind stayed at the level of a toddler. They were alive, but not whole. And me, I should have died. Here's the strange part. I never wore a seatbelt. Not once. But that night, maybe 2 minutes before the crash, I buckled mine. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But that seatbelt was the only reason I survived. Even then, I was wrecked. My hip was broken. My jaw was shattered so badly that surgeons had to wire it shut. For weeks, I lived off liquids through a straw. I was in a wheelchair for a month. And I had burns on my arm and knee from being trapped in the car as it caught fire. The flames were licking at me until rescuers managed to put it out and drag me free. Recovery was brutal. My body hurt, my spirit was exhausted, but I was alive. When I woke up in the hospital, my family told me straight up that seatbelt saved me. But I knew, deep down, I hadn't buckled it myself. What do you mean? Here's why. In 1998, 20 years before my wreck, my dad's sister, my Aunt Wendy, died in a car accident. She was under the influence just like I was that night. I never even met her. She died before I was born. But my dad carried the pain of losing her, and I always carried her story. Laying there in the hospital bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that Wendy was in the car with me. Maybe she knew my dad could handle losing his sister, but not his child. Maybe she stepped in because she knew it wasn't my time. Maybe she whispered in my ear. Maybe she guided my hand, or maybe she buckled the seatbelt herself. As a kid, I thought the little girl in the nightgown was the biggest mystery of my life. Was she real? Was she Ruby? Or was my imagination just filling in shadows? But after the wreck, I had a whole new set of questions. Why did I put on my seatbelt that night when I never did before? Was it just luck? Or was there someone in the car with me? Could it have been my Aunt Wendy reaching in at just the right moment to keep me here? Thank you so much for listening to my story. Let me know what you think. No idea, girl, but you gave me goosebumps. Definitely, it's very eerie. It really makes you wonder if someone was watching over you. Your story was definitely very interesting. We're gonna move on to the next story. Is this paranormal, or is there a logical explanation because we freaked out? I'm ready to freak out with you guys. We have lived in our new build UK since January this year. Living there is me, my husband, and our 20-year-old son. On Friday night, early Saturday morning at 12:57, I was awoke to music blooming through our house, specifically the song Gold Digger by Kanye West. I picked up my phone and texted my son thinking it was him playing music. He was still up and replied it wasn't him. I then realized it had a lot of bass, so opened our bedroom door and stood at the top of the stairs, and then knew it was coming from downstairs through our Sonos speaker. After about 30 seconds, it stopped, so I went back to bed, texted my son a little, where we were trying to understand what happened. When my husband woke up next morning, I told him and said I was surprised he didn't hear it. Our bedroom is above the living room. We just put it down to a weird glitch we couldn't explain. Then last night at 12:06, we both woke up to Footloose playing. Do you have a DJ ghost? My husband was like, WTF, and ran downstairs to have a look. While he was down there, it stopped. So he came back up, but before he got back in the bedroom, it started again with Cyndi Lauper playing Girls Want to Have Fun. He picked up his phone and we sat on the bed looking at the Sonos app, and it said recently played family hits. At this point, the music has stopped. Is there any chance that your neighbor's somehow controlling your speakers? I heard stories like that before. Maybe it's just a prank. It's not a very funny one, but it's definitely possible. Then, as we were looking at the app, the family hit disappeared and said nothing under recently played. To our horror, as we were looking at the app, It flashed up at the bottom of the app, Cyndi Lauper with the same song, volume that can be controlled by your phone, and the pause/unpause button. As we were watching it went from pause to play, so husband pressed pause again for it to play again. This went for a few seconds, then the volume was dragged up high, husband dragged it back down. We watched it drag up higher and higher until it was at its max. All the while, the music keeps starting up again and he keeps having to pause it, until the song changed to Tiny Tim Tiptoe Through the Tulips. At this point, I literally broke down crying and we were like, what the heck do we do? So we agreed to go downstairs and unplug it. That sounds like a good plan, but if it's gonna start to play again, I'm gonna freak out. When we go down there, the green light was on the Sonos speaker. For the first time in my life, I stood there saying the Lord's Prayer in my head. I'm not religious, but at that moment I felt like there was something very wrong. Just before we went downstairs, we both went into our son's room. He was fast asleep. Some of the things we considered and ruled out were: the Sonos soundbar is only connected to the TV. Only my husband has the app. We have no other smart speakers in the house. We have 2 Alexas, but since we moved, we'd never plugged them in. You might have some jokey neighbor though. There is no other app connected to the speaker such as Spotify. We have Starlink, not normal Wi-Fi, which has a strong password. So what the hell happened last night? My husband is a 6'3" strong man who is a tradie with his own business, so not someone who scares easily. I watched the color drain from his face as the Tiny Tim song started. We were pretty certain it wasn't our son. He was fast asleep and he was at work early this morning. Plus, he's not like that. He wouldn't play a prank anyway, let him alone in the middle of the night. I'm desperate for this not to be paranormal. We've had things happen before, but not in this house and not this bad. I heard once that a guy had a very rude neighbor, and somehow accidentally he joined with his phone to his neighbor's TV. And he was messing with him for months. He was switching videos when he was watching YouTube, stopped and restarted them, switched them up. So it is possible that someone outside your home is messing with you guys. But I'm gonna check the comments because maybe there are more ideas. I sometimes play Tiptoe Through the Tulips on my daughter's Alexa when she pisses me off, freaks her out. Starlink has been hacked really easily, so there's the probable explanation. The speakers also have Bluetooth, and if the green light was flashing, then it is in setup mode. Yeah, there you go. I think it's more possible that someone pranks you than this to be paranormal. Try turning off your phone at night. If it happens while phones are off, I would wonder otherwise. I think off, it's like app glitches. Neighbors have logged into your speaker and having fun. Yeah, exactly. This is what I think too. We're gonna move on to the next one. My husband was not my husband that day. Ooh, this sounds very creepy. This is my very first post here, so bear with me. I'm going to be telling one incident out of a handful of incidents that happened at this property in 1993. I was pregnant with my second child and my husband and I were getting ready to leave for a party at my mom's house. I was finishing up folding the laundry in the living room while my husband finished rinsing the silverware in the kitchen. I had my back to him across the room and I could hear the silverware clinking in the sink and the water running. We had been getting along all day as we always did, as we had a very good relationship. We rarely argued and he had never once raised his voice or his hand to me our entire marriage. Anyway, as I said, I had my back to him and I was standing over our love seat, folding clothes and stacking them in different piles. He was behind me about 12 feet away in the kitchen at the sink. After a couple of minutes, I stopped hearing the silverware clink in the sink and it became quiet behind me. I assumed he had finished the task. All of a sudden, I heard something whoosh through the air and then something hit the love seat low down between my legs and made a bum, booing, booing, booing sound. I looked down and I kid you not, there was a butcher knife sticking in the couch between my legs. I turned around incredulously and looked at my husband. He was standing at the sink but was facing me. His hands were at his sides, made into fists, and the look of his face was pure hate and anger. He was breathing in and out, in, and his face was becoming redder and redder. I was in shock. He had never done anything like this to me, ever. I said, "What in the hell did you do that for? You could have killed me." He said nothing. He just stood there, fist clenched, breathing in and out heavily with an angry look on his red face. I repeated myself, asking him over and over why he had done that. I started to walk toward him because I didn't know what to even do. I would have run away so fast that he wouldn't even have the time to realize it. Walking toward him is bold. I was looking him in the face, begging him to tell me why he would do something like that. We hadn't even been arguing or fighting or anything of the sort. As I got closer and closer to him, his hands began to unclench and his breathing became more normal, and he turned toward the sink and reached up to turn the faucet off. When I got up close enough to touch him, I put my hand on his shoulder and he looked at me and smiled. At this point, I'm beginning to tear up because I just don't understand what just happened and why he won't answer me. Then he looked at me and smiled. It was a genuine smile, and the look on my face must have been a look of confusion. I asked him for the 10th time why he had done it, and he literally looks at me in the eye and asks, "Do what?" At this point, I became angry because to me it seems as if he was trying to be funny now, but it absolutely wasn't funny because he really could have killed me. I began to raise my voice at him and demand that he tell me why he had done it. He was genuinely confused and had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. To this day, 31 years later, he does not believe this actually happened. It's important for me to reiterate that he never even raised his voice to me the entire relationship. He was the most gentle, kind, and loving man. He was quiet, even-tempered, and was actually one of those people who didn't like violence. I'm telling you, this was not my husband who did that. The chills are back. As I explained above, this is just one of the things that happened at this property. Did he also experience the rest of the stuff, or was it happening only to you? What about your child, or you moved away before they were born? It's not even close to being the worst thing that happened there. What do you mean? What else happened that can be worse than this? But right after we moved in, me being a young naive 19-year-old, I had a girls' night, I guess you could say, with a few of my best friends, and did something stupid. Please don't tell me it was a Ouija board. Please don't tell me it was a Ouija board. We played with the Ouija board. No, you did not. Nothing happened that night, but after a few weeks of doing that, things began to happen at this property. Since that time in my life, I have always been one to tell people to never use a Ouija board. I never used one and I won't ever do it. Yes, I'm not someone who thinks a lot about paranormal stuff, but why would I risk it and play with things like this? I truly believe that it opened the door in my home that night, and I will never, ever, ever use one again in my entire life. That's good. Depending on how this post does here, I might share the other experiences too. One of them being the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my 50 years of life. So yeah, this was a more creepier story. Even if you're a non-believer, just please don't mess with stuff like this. Because what if we are wrong and it's actually true? Let's see the comments. Good you left this place without any attachment and no physical damage. What about the worst experience you faced? Could it have been a carbon monoxide-induced hallucination situation? Did you not grab him once he came to his senses and show him the knife in the couch? Yeah, I was thinking that too, but maybe she removed the knife and she walked away with it. Anyway, we're gonna move on to our last story. That is it. We moved. Hello everyone. As most of you know, I am a medical examiner who usually shares experiences that I have had in my morgue, but more recently it has been coming home with me. Thank you for the introduction because I had no idea. If you don't know, here's a quick recap. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It started when we moved into our first home, a house right by my old high school. I would be completely alone and hear my husband's voice. That happened on multiple occasions. Then there were shoes and legs behind me, but when I turned around there was no one behind me. My husband has heard me on multiple occasions, But my husband is mildly schizophrenic, so that isn't anything new. It just happens a lot more frequently. We lived on an old burial ground that was moved. It was supposed to have been done properly. The paperwork shows that everything was done properly to the burial ground where the religion was running the cemetery. Burial ground? A cemetery? I wouldn't be surprised that weird stuff happening there. Well, things escalated. I was constantly sick. I had my gallbladder taken out last year, but this felt like a gallbladder attack most days. I couldn't eat or drink anything and sleep was non-existent. I was angry and sad all the time, to the point that my husband said that something was wrong and we needed to go take a mini vacation with family. Funny enough, I felt just fine after finally being able to sleep. I slept for 12 hours straight. The most peaceful sleep I have ever had in my life. I felt amazing the next day and I couldn't even explain it. He stopped hearing my voice completely. He usually heard it 2-3 times a day, but when we were away, everything just was quiet and peaceful. We went back home on a Tuesday due to the fact that we finally had someone religious coming to fully help us. So we thought at least. We were wrong. That only escalated things. Thankfully, my husband has been scouted by one of the largest tech companies, so we decided that it was our time to change things up. We moved down last month and I didn't post an update until we got settled in. I apologize. What's the most important is that you're okay. We did not sell the home. It is still our home, but we don't feel right selling it. It will just stay vacant unless we can get some answers and some resolve. Now, I know that I have a new morgue, but these coworkers tell me all about what's happening in the morgue. They are not shy. I still have contact with the other morgue and they promise to keep Angie company and give me updates on her and the other spirits that live in the morgue. I guess that's another story. I hope to be able to share all of these experiences with you here, as long as you guys are up for it. I also want to thank to everyone for all your help trying to help us get answers about our old home. We cannot thank you enough. All of the help led us to make the decision to move, and it is, in my opinion, the correct thing to do. For sure, I think it's very creepy to live in burial ground. So I think it's definitely healthy that you good guys move away. I'm really happy for you and I hope you're not gonna have any more incidents. I hope your other house is in a state that isn't strong on squatters' rights. Someone can move into your vacant home and claim it if you leave it too long, which I think is ridiculous. Hope you said the house is in a state where it's illegal to do that. Hope you and your husband are doing well. I am really looking forward to any and all updates you post. I will say working in a morgue/funeral home is definitely an experience for sure. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed our spooky episode. If you did, please subscribe and see you in the next one.